So, the Dragon Isles. I know immediately you may be thinking, really, who even cares about dragons now with the Shadowlands? Didn't they lose their significance all the way back in Cataclysm? But wait, there is actually more. When you actually scratch under this idea's surface, you might see that there is a ton of potential as well as hints for a possible excellent Dragon Isles expansion. The Isles are a well-developed idea. They may be close to Northrend, which is now significant in Shadowlands with a jailer-looking guide added. Blizzard confirmed that we'll be returning to Azeroth after this expansion. So, what is going on with these Dragon Isles? Is it just a myth? How likely is it really? Let us look at all the possible hints and why this could actually be a very good expansion. If you're looking for a really interesting game to play on your phone or your browser, then Hero Wars might just be the game for you. A fantasy online action RPG game with many PvP and PvE modes. It has a really classic fantasy feel to it, a developed campaign with over 130 missions, as well as arena, tower, and a bunch of other modes. Hero Wars has more than 50 unique heroes with unique abilities that you can combine in nearly endless ways. Best of all, you can play both in your mobile phone and in your browser. However, the main part is the social aspect, as this is an online game, so you can create guilds, fight other players, and just rise in rank. If you join the game now, you'll get a super chest with a secret hero, as well as 62 emerald and 30,000 gold. So don't forget to check out my link in the description below or scan the QR code, and see you in game. I know, immediately you may be thinking, didn't you just make a video a week ago on an Elune Moon Sun expansion? But just wait, I'll cover this in just a second, and then you see that maybe it is entirely possible that this could all be one single concept, it could all be connected. The Dragon Isles could be the focal point, the new zone, but Elune, Moon, and the Sun could definitely be in the background, and all of this could be connected and tied into the next expansion. So right off the bat, let's cover the most obvious thing. What actually are these Dragon Isles and why should we even care about them? Well, long ago when World of Warcraft was released, in fact in the original WoW beta, the Dragon Isles were actually supposed to be a thing. They were to be located in North Lordran, west of Quel'Thalas, and there are still assets that prove that this was actually intended to be a real zone, like they literally worked on it. Originally, these isles were supposed to be filled with temples of the old gods with this massive old god looking building in the middle, and it was to be the home to all the dragonflights. Obviously, this never happened and the lore may be confusing there, but this was supposed to be some heavy dragonflight old god influence on these isles, which could be very significant for the entire old god story. Well, you may be thinking, that's a cool fact and all, like what they did in the beta, but that was nearly 20 years ago. Who even cares about some scrapped content from the beta of the original game? Well, there are heavy hints that in Battle for Azeroth, the Dragon Isles were supposed to be a thing, but likely it was cut as it was too big of a bite to chew at the time, and then we had that entire Zod thing, which is a story in itself. In fact, in BFA, the Dragon Isles were for the first time ever actually mentioned in the game. Keep in mind, until this point, this was more like a dev behind the scenes thing, like an Easter egg cool fact, but in the lore of the game, they talked about the Dragon Isles, obviously confirming that it is a thing in the lore, not just some random drawing. It was said that there was a legend of a place that was home of all the dragonflights of Azeroth, but Rexxar said that no such place had been found and that it is more than likely just a myth. Now keep up with me, here is the interesting part. Who even really are dragons? Everyone that has played WoW ran across one at least once, but more than likely a million times over. You know about Deathwing, the green dragons, the blue dragons, the red dragons, and a million other combinations. Well, actual dragon origin is just completely shrouded in mists. For the first time, their story was fleshed out in the Chronicle, sort of, but even then it's more like theories of how they came to be, like nothing super concrete. The dragons, as you know them, the dragonflights, are all a creation of the Titan Keepers that were meant to safeguard Azeroth. Some got corrupted, twisted, or whatever, but all of them can trace their origin back to their common ancestor, and that is the Proto-Dragons. Yes, the Proto-Dragons, the simple looking ones you may have ran into back in Wrath of the Lich King all across Northrend. Now, the theory of how they were created is that they descend from elementals that weren't imprisoned in the elemental plane and they just remained on Azeroth. So essentially, the proto-dragons are elementals that turned into creatures of flesh and blood. However, this is literally just a very loose theory, as is most of the Titan's sourced information. However, we know that there are some creatures that are in fact native to Azeroth, and their entire origin is completely subject to change, which gives Blizzard just a perfect opportunity to explore this idea. Really, they got a ton of lore room to just work with. Now, let us return to the map and the most interesting detail. So, originally, these isles were supposed to be somewhere west of northern Eastern Kingdoms, which was of course scrapped. It is entirely possible that these isles could totally in fact be closer to Northrend, and that they could be much larger than we would expect than it was originally planned. Now, here's the good stuff. You know how all dragons originated from the proto-dragons in Northrend, which is also how they got connected to the Titan Keepers? Why actually is that? Why are all the ancestors and the creators of the actual dragons, as well as the regular proto-dragons in Northrend? Is it possible that a migration occurred somewhere from this island, the home of all the dragonflights, you know, the island just next door to Northrend? It could seriously be possible that something happened there, either a war, plague, all that stuff that could lead them to fly to Northrend and to spread from there. Additionally, the Wormrest Temple is there, the center of all the dragons, so it is entirely possible that the original proto-dragons were refugees that created a new center of power in Northrend. This would almost exactly be the same case how the Zandalari long ago were the center of the troll civilization, but later on they got split away and other civilizations were created that just developed on their own. What if there is an entirely different proto-dragon race of powerful dragons that remained on the Dragon Isles, like the Zandalari of all the dragonflights, the original ones. Additionally, this could also branch into a million ideas, such as they completely turned into Old God's servants, so let us further explore this. A long story short, and this really is a long story, but long ago, in Northrend, there used to be the dragon aspects such as Neltharion and Alexstrasza. They faced off against Galakrond, a monster. They proved themselves to the Titan Keepers, and then they were turned into the dragon aspects that were in charge of protecting the planet, and they lost this power after Cataclysm. Super simplification, but a bunch of other things happened in between. Galakrond was a massive dragon, a gigantic one, and even that is putting it lightly. Just, he was huge. He started cannibalizing his own, which turned him into a super dangerous monstrosity that was really difficult to put down. However, we don't actually know what it was that corrupted the dragon and what led to him to become a monstrosity, because before he was but a regular proto-dragon. We know that there was strong death magic there, which could perfectly tie into this entire Shadowlands thing, but it is also possible that he was corrupted by the old gods. What is also possible is that he may not have been able to escape the infestation, as the proto-dragons escaped from the Isles and he thought he was safe, but he was not, which could mean that the Dragon Isles could be just filled by a bunch of gigantic Galakronds, which would be a really big threat. Alternatively, they could also pull a jailer manipulated Galakrond, he was but a pawn, and turned him with domination magic, which would honestly just be so dumb. I hope that doesn't happen. Additionally, when the Titan Keepers decided to empower the aspects, the main Titan Keeper Odin was just so much against them. In fact, he was so much against them that he took his part of Ulduar and just went away. The most basic explanation was that he thought only the Titan Forge could defend Azeroth, but come on, really, there must be more, something to do with this story. Just think about it. The main Titan Keeper decided to just completely abandon his purpose, go away from the Pantheon, and keep in mind, these Titan Keepers were made with the main intention to serve, all because he just didn't like dragons, he didn't trust them. What was it that caused him to dislike the dragons so much? Could there have been something he saw at the time that the others did not? Possible corruption? On top of that, Christy Golden stated indirectly that old gods may be returning just a few months back, so it is entirely possible that an expansion could be linked to this. However, how would all this actually work? Well, Blizzard really has completely open hands with this concept, as it is almost entirely undeveloped, so the Dragon Isles could literally be the size of a small Pandaria if they wanted to make it that big. There could be multiple zones similar to Broken Isles, which could lead to bunch of content. This could also introduce a new dragon-like race or class, but a race would be very likely. This could also return the dragon aspects back into the story and maybe them getting their power back that they lost all the way back in Cataclysm. However, my biggest theory with this is that the Dragon Isles would just be a facade, literally just the theme of the expansion, but a whole bunch of other things would happen in the background. Blizzard, in an interview about a month ago, confirmed that we will return to Azeroth after the Shadowlands and that the game may be simplified a bit, but that there is still some room for cosmological battles. So this Dragon Isles could obviously lead into Old Gods returning and the Void Lords being introduced for the first time ever. Maybe the Old God infestation got so bad there that the Void Lords are actually being summoned by these ancient dragons for the first time ever. This could then, as I mentioned at the start, also have a theme of the moon and the sun, Elune, the life titan, defending against this corruption of Azeroth. I previously made a video with all the million hints in regards to mounts that generally predict a future expansion. Well, to top it off, Blizzard just released a dragon bundle a few days ago, and if that is not a hint, I really don't know what is. Additionally, there is just so much potential. For example, Murozond could be a threat, the chromatic dragonflight, Wrathion still has a role to play, and we know he was actually searching for the Dragon Isles personally. Ysera had a pretty prominent role in Ardenweald, which could also be a connection. Additionally, the infinite dragons were a thing in BFA, and that alternate timeline stuff is still happening. We have also seen dragons changed or corrupted by everything from arcane to fel, which could also introduce the light, the void, and a bunch of other things. As there is suspected Old God influence here, it might be a perfect way to reintroduce them, as that Nazalt ending was completely underwhelming, and they could be a perfect segue into us finally facing off against these Void Lords. I know the Void Lords are no longer the big bad that we thought they were. Now, there is the Jailer, the Master Genius, but at least they have a really big backstory that could make fighting them a lot more interesting. So, while on first glance the Dragon Isles may seem like a very bland and boring idea, it could actually be made to be excellent. It could be a perfect way to return us back to Azeroth to explore, to discover ancient history, and to become adventurers, but at the same time, we could once again battle these major threats in the background indirectly. Not just resetting the universe itself, but just going on Azeroth and fighting dragons. Thank you for watching. Check out how we will fight Argus in 9.2 by clicking on the screen, and check out Doronsmovies Academy for videos on real world history and science. See you next time.